Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is White Rice Wednesday, which means time for my Survivor recap. I haven't posted one of these in a while because last season was a complete mess, is a nice word to put it. So this season, I'm back to doing recaps, and just from watching the 2-hour premiere, wow, this is going to be an amazing season. So to recap on tonight's episode, if I don't know who wouldn't know this, but this season is an all-winner season, winners at war. It first starts off, as any season does, rainbows and unicorns. It was very a classy touch how they were all having champagne on the beach then. And it was really funny that they all thought it was going to be boys versus girls. And to be fair, I mean, that's what I thought. I mean, all the boys were on one boat, all the girls were on another. But Jeff likes to shake things up, and they completely switched the tribes. And I apologize in advance because I did not take a note of who's on which tribe. But the interesting things about this season so far is one of them, I think, is fire tokens. And when I first heard about that, I'm like, what exactly is that? Basically, they can use that to buy comfort items such as a tarp, a hammock, or they can buy certain foods. They could buy like a bag of beans, rice, a jar of peanut butter, cookies, or they could save it to get an immunity idol. It's not clear if you can pull tokens together. Like, for conversation's sake, if Tyson had 2 and Natalie had X amount, can they pull their tokens together to get something? Not sure. One of the big things about this season is that usually for the past 40 seasons at the end you'd play for $1 million. This season it's $2 million. So yeah, all hell's gonna break loose. And right away they start off an immunity challenge. It's one of my favorite challenges when they're in the water and it's 2 against 2 and they have to basically swim out to get the ring, and whoever could get it back to their spot first wins. And the concept in itself sounds easy, but it is not. It is so fun to watch. I'm just saying, yeah, knock their freaking lights out. And I gotta say, from a fan perspective, it was amazing seeing Tony and Boston Rob go against each other. I mean, they're 2 of my favorite winners, so to see that happen, I was like, oh my god, I literally have chills watching this. So it ended up being the blue tribe that lost first. And I gotta say, how the tribes ended up is quite interesting, because you have on one tribe, first of all, Boston Rob and Amber, we all know in the Survivor fandom that they were on All Stars and they got married, and they've each won, obviously, because they're on there, but they're not on the same team. So one would think it might be an advantage for them to be out there because they automatically have somebody that they can trust in their alliance. But if anything, it's a disadvantage because they'll have a bigger target on their back, and they'll want to get them out ASAP. You also have on one tribe, you have Sandra, Tony, and Sarah, and they all played together in Game Changers. And Tony wanted to go after Sandra, but Sandra went after Tony, and then Sarah had a hand in getting Sandra. Yeah, Sarah had a hand in getting Sandra vote out. So it was all that together. So yeah, and Tony and Sarah have played together previously. On the other tribe, you have Jeremy and Natalie that played together. So it's interesting to see those dynamics because, of course, Rob and Amber are going to be bigger threats because they're, just for the simple fact they're married. But then you have these people who have played together before and have been in alliances before. And you also have to take into consideration, because some of these people have played so many times, some of them are really good friends outside the game. We've seen Tyson and Boston Rob play poker together a lot. And this was talked about throughout the whole episode, the quote-unquote Poker's Alliance, because I didn't know Jeremy and Kim play poker as well. But they're talking about how there's no easy targets, and I agree with that to an extent. I feel like they can't use the excuse. Usually, if people have played the game before, like on a fans versus favorite season, or if you have a bunch of fans and you have two people that have played before, as Rob was in a season like that, they automatically want to get the people who have played before off because they're automatically threats because they have played before. But I feel like there are easier targets. One of them being Boston Rob, because, you know, he's freaking amazing. Sandra, for the simple fact that she's won twice, and nobody's going to want her to win a third time. And Tony, well, there's no need for explanation there with Tony. So I do think there are easier targets, but it's not going to be hard to get them off because they have played, like Boston Rob, like this is what, 5 or 6 times he's played. So he knows what he's doing. So and he could read people very well. So it's going to be very hard to get him out. So it seems like, you know, both tribes seem to start off with them, you know, building the shelter, you know, not so much to get to know each other stuff. I mean, to an extent, but then also, like I mentioned, a lot of these people have played before. So there wasn't that much of that. What was interesting at one point is that Adam and Denise separated from their tribe, and it wasn't to go find an idol, it was just so they can go find the water well, but because they were gone for so long, that automatically put a target on their back. And if, like, we don't know that, like, we can obviously see they're going to look for the water well, but being out there in a game, you don't know, like, when somebody's gone for, like, X amount of time, your first thought is, oh my god, they're going to look for an idol. And if you don't vote that person, like, I could see the paranoia, because if they're gone, then you think, oh, they might have an idol. Should we get them out now? We need to get them out ASAP. When, all in all, they could have just been going to look for the water well. But about 7 times out of 10, they're going to look for an idol. I got to give Tony credit, though. It must have took a lot in him not to go looking for idols. Because the previous 2 seasons he was on, the Game Changers, he was running all through the island. He made, he didn't even try to hide it. His first time, he was finding idols all over the place. I think even a couple instances he found them without a clue. So he's really playing it down a bit. I feel like he's just kind of taking everything in and, like, adapting to the situation at hand and seeing, like, who exactly he can trust. And Tony's going to strike at some point. The question is when. It seems like Yul is in a very good spot. He seems to be, I gotta give him credit, he's thinking very smart. He notices that a lot of these people have played before and have these relationships, but then you have people like Sophie, Nick, and Wendell who have only played this game once, so they're kind of on the outs in that sense, so Yul wants to take them under his wing and make that an alliance. So I definitely think that Yul's thinking very strategic, and that's very smart. What I think is epic is the Parvati and Boston Rob alliance, and they played together also in Heroes versus Villains, and they were gunning for each other this season. But Rob basically put it, well, we weren't on the same page last season, so I wanted to see if we were on the same page. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Eventually, I know they're going to gun for each other, but I'm wondering if this alliance will last long. So, what I love, and I was laughing hysterically at, is because Blue lost the first challenge, they didn't go right to Tribal Council, as one would assume. They had a day to think it over, who they should vote off, and everyone seems to be afraid to throw names out there, and I could kind of see why, because when you throw the names out there, then people could easily turn it around on you and say, oh, so-and-so's throwing your name out, and then the target's then shifted on you. And Parvati at one point said, are they dumb or are they just scared? And I wish that would be on a t-shirt or something, because that is hysterical. So when they get to Tribal, they were talking about Denise and Adam gone and how that could look shifty to the other eye. Let me see my notes here. There's also the fact that everyone's comfortable in the sense that they can't use the excuse, oh, well, they've played before, they've won before. They've all played, they've all won the game. So when you go in the tribal council, one of the biggest mistakes is to be too comfortable, because when you get too comfortable, that's the moment when you don't play an idol or you don't play an advantage. And nobody's ever safe at tribal. Even when you have that idol in your pocket, that doesn't mean one's going to play the idol. So there was some whispering going on, and it ended up being Natalie that got sent home first. And I'm not a big fan of Natalie. I respect her gameplay in her first season, because honestly, nobody else could have won that season but Natalie. So I do respect her gameplay for her season. But out here, I get their thought process to vote Amber and Rob off, but they're on separate tribes right now. It would be one thing if they were on the same tribe. Yeah, get rid of them. But Jeremy and Natalie are on the same tribe, and they have both played together before. So I think it was very smart of them to get rid of Natalie first. And what was also interesting is they all know they're going to the island of Edge of Extinction. So there's that thought process. But when the camera played at the end when they were getting voted off, apparently if you have fire tokens, you can yield them to somebody else in the game. And Natalie, of course, chose to give her fire tokens to Jeremy. So when Jeremy finds them the next day, again, Jeremy's also thinking very smart, because he realizes how powerful these tokens can be, that he could potentially use this for like an advantage or an idol. So I definitely think Jeremy's going to be very smart at how he plays these fire tokens. Sandra makes it clear that she feels betrayed by Rob, because as we saw last season on the Island of the Idols, they were together for how many days, and Rob actually said to Sandra, according to Sandra, that he was never going to come back out there. But the fact that not only him, but his wife is out there, Sandra feels betrayed, and she said that she wasn't going to come out here and play an emotional game. But I think that's also everyone else's a lot of people's downfalls and mistakes. And again, it's totally different than us watching it than playing the actual game. But when people start playing the game emotionally, saying that, oh, I'm going to vote them out because they voted my alliance member out, that seems to be a lot of people's downfall. With the Blue Tribe, they are starting to see that Rob is calling the shots, but I don't really see how that's a surprise to them at all. So Natalie, on the Edge of Extinction, she finds that she can also win fire tokens at the Edge of Extinction. It's not clear exactly how she can win those yet, but she can win stuff like pizza, a jar of peanut butter, a hammock, or an idol. And she gets a clue to what we think is fire tokens, but it actually is an idol. But the idol isn't good on Edge of Extinction. Basically, the idol is good for the next 3 tribal councils, and she could... The wording sounded like that she can use that... Whoever the tribe is that loses at the 3rd tribal council, she can yield it to. I don't know how she'd get that information, but apparently Natalie... How it works is that Natalie can yield it to somebody now, and then that person will have it, and then it can only work for the next 3 tribal councils. So there was a bit confusion there when I first heard it. So the second immunity challenge, they had to row in a boat, and they had to get these rings. They had to go back in the middle of the ocean, and they had to lunge themselves over this roller. Then they had to solve a 3-digit combination lock, and then had to throw the rings onto these paddles. And it looked like it was going to be a blowout at one point. It was really awesome to see Rob literally throwing people over just to try to win the game. Not the game, but the challenge. And as soon as Jeremy got up there, he threw 3 times, and both times he hit it. So it sent the red tribe to tribal council, and there's a lot of scrambling and paranoia, and Sandra, contrary to the blue tribe, is not afraid to tell people, hey, this person's gunning for you. Yeah, this person said this person said this about you. So you'd think that would make her a threat, but Sandra's name isn't really thrown out there. The names that are thrown out there is basically like the Poker Alliance, to get Amber, Tyson. When Tyson hears his name thrown out there, he was willing to work with anyone. He doesn't want to go home, so he's willing to go against Kim and Amber. And Kim had a moment because on her season, she completely dominated the game, and now she's kind of working on the bottom, so it's interesting to see that dynamic. But when you're on the bottom, the only way you could go is up. So at the tribal council, they were talking about, again, the Poker Player Alliance, and they were saying how that's basically not a thing. And I don't know, it seemed like too much going on tribal council. It did end up being Amber that got sent home, and I'm like, wow, Rob is going to be on the warpath when he finds out Amber got voted out. So, of course, Amber yields her tokens to Rob. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can make it back in the game. But, yeah, Rob is definitely going to be on the warpath and is going to look for blood. And next week's episode shows at one point they're climbing up a ladder, and it looks like it's Tony that's climbing up there. So I don't know if there's an idol or something up there, or I would imagine so, because, you know, Tony is the person that would go up and get it. But it's like, what is that? We have no idea. So it looks like something between Adam and Denise as well. I don't know if one of them told Ben something and Ben told that person. I don't know. It looks like this isn't going to be a season to disappoint. This looks like it's going to be an amazing season. So if you guys want to check out Survivor, it is on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on CBS. I hope you guys enjoyed my recap video. And until next time, stay regal.